Now to an investigation into an arrest in Chester, Delaware County. A 42-year-old man was arrested yesterday afternoon and now faces several charges. But video that's been circulating online of the arrest now has led to a police officer being placed on leave. Action News reporter Walter Perez live at Chester Police Headquarters with the details and the video. Walter.
That's right, Rick. The officer involved is on administrative duty at this time as investigators work to figure out exactly what happened here in Chester yesterday afternoon. This cell phone video is now at the center of an investigation in Chester, Delaware County.
Oh, yeah, he done it.
It was the end result of a traffic stop performed outside Truth Social Lounge on West 2nd Street yesterday that ended with the arrest of 42-year-old Wayne Vick. Lounge owner Kwawi Wilson says Vick is his friend and says the officer went too far.
I would say we need some more structure handling how these officers are trained and how this stuff is going on down here because it was unacceptable.
In court documents, the arresting officers said he was attempting to stop the suspect because his vehicle had tinted front windows. The officers said that Vick pulled over and then hopped out of his car and took off on foot. That's when the officer used a taser. On the ground, the officers said he tasered Vick 3 more times, but that he was reaching for his waistband and refused to put his hands behind his back. That's when the officer reports that he struck Vick on the left side of his face. The mayor of Chester, Stephen Roots, released a statement reading in part, quote, "What we saw in that video is deeply concerning, and the public deserves answers. I have formally requested that the Delaware County District Attorney undertake an independent investigation, a directive that DA Jack Stolzheimer says he takes very seriously."
So my deputy district attorney for special investigations and his team will review all the evidence, compare it to the law, make a finding, and then report back to me and to the commissioner of police.
Still, city officials say there is police body cam video that recorded the incident in its entirety, and that no judgments should be made until the whole truth comes out.
We hope that the citizens are also understanding that there are two sides and that they would have patience and understanding and allow the investigation to unfold.
Now, the suspect, Wayne Vick, remains behind bars tonight in lieu of 10% of $200,000 bail, and he faces several serious charges, including illegal drug possession and resisting arrest. Reporting live from Chester Police Headquarters, Walter Perez, Channel.
Months later, 4,812 deaths, 1,736, or 36% of those deaths occurring within the day of injection or within 1 or 2 days. Now, I was raising that issue, I was going on media, I was showing this chart, and I got censored. Radio talk show hosts, when I talked about this, they were deplatformed. Right. Now again, I realize VAERS doesn't prove causation. I realize it's grossly underreported, but that's a correlation that I thought was pretty important. Somebody ought to be looking at it. So when I finally had a meeting with Francis Collins, head of NIH, with a group of other senators, I asked him, "Are you watching VAERS?" Now, I gave him those stats. He did admit that 6 deaths were associated with the J&J vaccine, but for the other over a few thousand deaths, he said 600 people died. That was his callous reaction. That was the head of the NIH completely blowing off the VAERS system that they had touted before they got the emergency use authorization. I'll continue. From May 17th to May 21, 2021, CDC officials discussed whether to issue a formal health warning called a Health Alert Network message on myocarditis, noting that, quote, "Providers aren't reporting these cases to VAERS." They knew they weren't. They knew they existed. They knew they weren't reporting them. A couple days later, during a May 24, 2021 vaccine safety meeting, notes show that FDA and CDC officials asked, quote, "Is VAERS signaling for myopericarditis now?" Question mark, and are told for the age groups 16 to 17 years and 18 to 24 years, yes. Yes, they saw a safety signal in VAERS, yet from May 25th to May 27th, CDC officials provide up-to-date information on the status of the Han to Pfizer and Moderna representatives. Not to the public, they're warning the injection manufacturers. indicating CDC's preference to keep those companies more informed about vaccine adverse events than the American people. On May 26th, then FDA Director, Acting Commissioner Janet Woodcock emails then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky noting that, quote, FDA does not concur with the issuance of the myocarditis HAN as written. The same day, CDC and FDA decide to, quote, nix the HAN and instead publish less formal clinical considerations about myocarditis on CDC website. 3 days following the myopericarditis signal, FDA official Peter Marks appears to raise concerns about even posting the less formal clinical considerations on CDC's website. He emails Woodcock and Walensky, quote, I need to ask for your patience with me. We still have concerns here if myocarditis and pericarditis
come out
have not actually signaled.
That jab, that experiment,
CDC
that's all it was an
editing
experiment.
Considerations discussed the
They had
need to,
people
quote,
line up and take
walk back.
Now they
He
saying
sends
people
advising
die from
doctors to,
that.
quote, consider restricting patients with myocarditis from
something
rigorous
was up. They
activity
came out with it too
like
quick.
competitive sports for at least 3 months until cleared by healthcare professionals. And I'll be talking to Dr. McCulloch about the danger of eliminating that warning because 4 days later, CDC posts on its website clinical considerations about myocarditis, which omits any advice to doctors to advise patients with myocarditis to limit rigorous activity. That's what's in this report in far greater detail. So I would ask that that information, together with my majority staff report, 2,473 pages of records HHS has produced pursuant to my January 28, 25 subpoena and my actual subpoena. I want those entered into the record. And with that, I'll turn over to Ranking Member Blumenthal.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for having this first hearing of our permanent subcommittee on investigations. I think we all agree that this hearing and our efforts in this subcommittee ought to be nonpartisan and non-political, and that we should depoliticize science, strictly adhere to the evidence, medical evidence, without resort to ideological predilection. And that there ought to be warnings about side effects from any medicine, and that the warning should be as prompt as possible.
It was
I think we
forcing it
can
on people,
all
though,
agree
man. Shouldn't they be held
on
accountable?
that fact.
That's why
And that
they
there
on
ought
the
to be
floor now.
very rigorous review of any kind of medical treatment by the FDA to make sure it's safe and effective before it's used in the public. But I want to take us back to January.
Niggas
of
sold y'all out, them black
2021.
doctors, y'all.
I know it's hard to
I told y'all.
recall the sense of real fear during the worst of the pandemic. More than 20,000 Americans died from coronavirus each week. I remember seeing pictures of people who were in the hospital on gurneys because there was inadequate space for them in the hospital. The morgues overflowed. And we were looking to some way to stop the spread and the deep-seated pervasive fear. During the worst week of the pandemic, more than 25,000 Americans died. That was during the last week of President Trump's term of office.
We'll be back to that, y'all.
Not only were hospitals overwhelmed, but non-urgent procedures were postponed, and doctors and nurses were working around the clock, in fact, putting themselves at risk. Those healthcare providers to this day are among my heroes in this story as patients filled the hallways. As we talk about the side effects of COVID.
Dr. Vaughn has treated over 4,000 long COVID and COVID vaccine injured patients. Dr. Vaughn.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson and Ranking Member Blumenthal. Thank you for having me. I'm going to dovetail a little bit off what Dr. McCullough Ranking Member Blumenthal, thank you for having me. I'm going to dovetail a little bit off what Dr. McCullough said. And one of the things that, as a clinician who also had about 200 people working for him and actually seeing about 170,000 patients a year, when COVID came along, I had to really figure out how to not only help my staff and make sure they're safe, but also help the patients that my organization was responsible for. And that really made me dive into understanding the pathology. And what I came away with was understanding that the spike protein, the S1 subunit specifically, is not a benign protein. It triggers inflammation, it disrupts endothelial barriers, it induces fibrin resistant to breakdown, and it promotes a lot of amyloid aggregates, which is what I research. These effects impair oxygen delivery, damage blood vessels, contribute to clotting pathologies that manifest with a lot of the symptoms that we're seeing in the long COVID and vaccine injured, which to this day is a huge amount of people. We're talking upwards of 10 to 15 million people in America that are being affected by the consequences of COVID in the long form or vaccine injury. And the typical symptoms are things like heart racing, brain fog, shortness of breath, and post-exertional malaise. In my clinic, I actually use immunofluorescent microscopy to be able to actually see what's going on in the blood and look for these amyloid aggregates. Some as young as teenagers that are unable to stand. Others are previously active adults suffering small strokes without typical identifiable causes. These are not abstract theories. They are the lived realities of my patients in Alabama and beyond. The mRNA injection, heralded as a solution, introduced a novel mechanism, lipid nanoparticles delivering modified mRNA that instructs the cells to produce a stabilized spike protein. Unlike traditional vaccines, this approach resulted in uncontrolled production of the spike protein for an unknown duration and distributes it widely across organs, including the heart, brain, and vasculature, and ovaries and testes. The actual EMA, their assessment of Comirnaty, which is Pfizer's vaccine, noted biodistribution beyond the injection site, contradicting claims that the vaccine stays in the arm. And a recent groundbreaking study using single-cell precision nanocarrier identification revealed LNP accumulation in the heart tissue of mice with adverse proteomic changes in immune and vascular proteins, raising concerns about the cardiac complications that dovetail with what we were seeing when we were looking at the COVID-19 vaccine myocarditis. I will tell my first encounter with a vaccine injury came in winter of 2021. 69-year-old man from Alabama presented with unexplained shortness of breath. He was a patient of mine. I really had no other reason that he had the shortness of breath. And after the second Pfizer dose, he actually had significant shortness of breath. I couldn't figure it out in a sense because it would typically be that he had a pulmonary embolism, but empirical anticoagulation and antiplatelet therapy brought rapid improvement. This case prompted deeper investigation that the spike protein's ability to induce fibrin that's resistant to breakdown, activate platelets irreversibly, and damage the inside of our vessels that run to every part of our body and every organ, explained his symptoms and those of thousands more since. I have treated approximately 4,000 patients suffering from long COVID and vaccine injury, or both. Many were young and previously healthy. For those with vaccine injury, trust in public institutions has been shattered. Many were coerced under the August 2021 federal mandates, despite legitimate hesitations due to prior infection or personal health risks. They knew their body better than the agencies. Now disabled, they are dismissed or ignored by the systems that mandated their compliance. The myocarditis signal is also a big thing. This spring of 2021, a clear safety signal emerged. Myocarditis in young males linked to mRNA vaccines. The Department of Defense confirmed cases of rare heart inflammation, and peer-reviewed studies later detected circulating spike protein in post-vaccine myocarditis cases. Autopsy findings have confirmed fatal vaccine-induced myocarditis. Yet federal authorities accelerated licensing and mandates, sidelining concerns. The CDC's hesitation to issue a health alert on myocarditis, and the FDA's former CBER director promoting vaccines on social media crossed a line from oversight to advocacy. This was not regulation, it was endorsement. Informed consent is the foundation of a patient-physician relationship. Absent the regulators providing that information, that relationship is irreparably harmed, and the practice of medicine will continue to suffer. In closing, I urge you to stop blindly following the science. Science does not lead anywhere. It is an observer, measurer, and descriptor. It must inform leadership, not replace it. When leaders hide behind the science to justify policy, they abdicate responsibility. We need leadership that humbly engages with data, listens to patients, and actually acts with courage. Thank you. I welcome your questions.
First dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Harris got the shot from Moderna live on TV this morning at the United Medical Center in Washington, D.C. as part of a push to boost confidence among the American people.
Literally about saving lives. I trust the scientists, and it is the scientists who created and approved this vaccine. So I urge everyone, when it is your turn, get vaccinated. It's about saving your life, the life of your family members, and the life of your community. It's really about saving lives. I trust the scientists, and it is the scientists who created and approved this vaccine. So I urge everyone.
Who was the scientists, ladies and gentlemen? Class, boys and girls. We already did that in class, right? Who was the scientist? For those who don't know, I'll tell you who it was if you don't know. It was Fauci. He was the scientist, right? I told you that motherfucker ain't no doctor, he's a scientist. He goes in the lab, make up some type of potion, and have you take the experiment. And this is what I've been telling y'all for a long motherfucking time, y'all. Straight up. These people sold y'all out, y'all. They sold y'all out.
When it is your turn, get vaccinated. It's about saving your life, the life of your family members, and the life of your community.
Harris joined several elected officials who have received the vaccine on live TV to show Americans the shot is safe. President-elect Joe Biden and his wife Jill were inoculated with the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine last week.
Get ready. Start getting prepared now, because there's a possible lockdown coming. We about to relive the year 2019, 2020, and 2021 all over again, as the CDC just announced that there's a very, very dangerous and deadly strain of the Rona that's making its way to the U.S. right now. Coming straight up out of goddamn China, straight out of China. Now the CDC calling this strain NB181. That's Nino Brown 181 for all the slow people in the back of the goddamn short bus. Now how the hell 3-4 years later they coming out with a goddamn new strain? You can't tell me they ain't in there making and creating this shit, man. They be in them damn labs in Wuhan trying to create an illness that's worse than that goddamn fentanyl. And I wouldn't be surprised that the illness that they creating for us is funded by the people over here that's warning you about the shit, so they can make the people dependent on them, because that get them automatic control over us. Now what I think going on is Donald done screwed up the goddamn economy. He didn't do nothing he said he was gonna do when he got in the office. And just like the last time he was in there and it got bad, he trying to put a cape on right now and play superhero again, so all of y'all can vote for him for a third term. Ain't it weird how these flus only happen when Donald in office?
Right, because you got them Democrats hating on it. You understand me? And if shit don't go their way, they got a backup plan, yo. So they're gonna release another fucking experiment on the peoples and have y'all line up and take another experiment. I'm telling y'all, listen to me, y'all. Don't go out there and take no jab. Don't be sold out, y'all. Don't be sold out once again. As you can see, the evidence is coming out. If you knew your past history about the Tuskegee experiment, your dumbass wouldn't have lined up and took the jab. And that's a fact. That experiment, that's all it was. I keep telling y'all this. Everything that was taught to us and told to us was a motherfucking lie. Everything is for us to put it the fuck together. And for those who don't got the common sense on putting it together, I'm gonna put it together for you. But take heed. Take heed, ladies and gentlemen. And it's that season again. Or the man-made experiment. It's that season again, goddammit.
I don't care how many of these goddamn flus they come out with. I ain't taking no goddamn. And I ain't going to no goddamn hospital. Cause the people that took that goddamn ended up dying from blood clots. And the people that walked in them hospitals got rolled out to the goddamn graveyard. They ain't never get up out that bed no more. I lost my grandma doing that goddamn virus. I lost DJ K Slay. I lost several of my friends in their 20s and 30s, man, when that goddamn thing came out. I ain't dealing with them goddamn hospital, and I ain't going to your goddamn corner where you telling me to go get the goddamn free dope. I ain't doing it. I'ma just load up on that elderberry. I'ma get outside and get me some sunlight, cause y'all ain't about to trick me like you tricked them. But let me ask you something. Are you ready for another lockdown?
COVID variant that's been
What's the
detected
word?
in different areas in the U.S.
Oh, you got slide windows in the back too, huh?
What do we need to know about this variant? I guess first.
Everything good, Wings? I know that's right. That fucking cold season, man. You see, I got the mask on, right? All right, baby. Yeah.
Screening international travelers in the U.S., including at New York City airports. It appears to be more transmissible than earlier variants, but doesn't seem to cause more severe illness. Symptoms are pretty much the same, with cough, sore throat, fever, body aches, and fatigue.
All right, so the question is this something that we need to be worried about?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should. You know, I'm worried. I work in an urgent care clinic in an underserved community, as you know, and I remember last summer we actually had a big spike in COVID cases due to waning immunity and not as many people.
And they know it's experiment season, right? And then they shut the hospitals down, but now they starting to, I think they not gonna open up the whole hospital. But I think Christianity Hospital brought pieces of some of these office spaces in these hospitals. Because they know it's going to be another spike in the experiment. And that's what they banking on. The Dixiecrats. I'm telling y'all, that was their last goddamn hocus pocus on y'all. To come back out with another experiment with these same goddamn heathens. Because they all in the bed together, y'all. Let's go.
Getting vaccinated. We had another one this past winter, along with a huge spike in flu cases. And it's important to remember that COVID-19 isn't just a simple cold. Symptoms can be mild in some people, but in others it can cause serious complications like pneumonia or symptoms that can linger for months or even years. Things like fatigue and brain fog and shortness of breath. And of course, it can be deadly. So
a lot of people have brain fog. You be talking about something and that quick you forget what the fuck you was just talking about. Brain fog like a motherfucker.
I really hope that COVID vaccines will remain available for anyone who wants them at low or no cost. And how many
at low or no cost? Ain't nobody getting no experiment peoples. And don't let these people keep selling y'all out, y'all. They don't give a damn about y'all.
Goddamn flu they come out with. I ain't taking no goddamn
issue. As introduced, I'm an internist, I'm a cardiologist. I believe I'm the most published individual who's ever testified on matters related to COVID-19 in any of these hearings. I've seen and examined more patients. I've examined more data, and I'm one of the most published people on the topic in the world. And as a cardiologist, I can tell you, my role in this was to fight disease, preserve life, and above all, do no harm. Do no harm. Now, the topic today is myocarditis or heart damage from the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm a cardiologist. I know the topic well. I've examined thousands of patients with this problem. Thousands. Before the pandemic, I had 2 patients ever with this problem. There's 1,065 papers in the peer-reviewed literature on COVID vaccine myocarditis. So let me summarize them for you. The first one that came on my radar screen that was alarming came from Washington University in St. Louis, August 18th of 2021. The first author is Verma and colleagues. New England Journal of Medicine. 42-year-old man comes into Washington University Hospital with vaccine myocarditis. The infection's ruled out. It's the vaccine. He's in the hospital. This is one of our best hospitals in the United States. He dies 3 days after taking Moderna. They can't save him in the hospital.
Say, Dr. McCullough, move the microphone just a little bit away from you.
Then one was reported from Korea by Choi and colleagues. This is now a younger man. Just a few days after Pfizer, he comes in the hospital. He dies within 8 hours of being in the hospital. I can tell you, I'm a cardiologist. That doesn't even happen with heart attacks. He dies within 8 hours. I examined all of the slides and the images that the Koreans had showed us. It looked like somebody took a blowtorch to that heart. It was so completely fried with inflammation. His heart was destroyed. These cases, which were widely known at the time, should have gotten everyone's attention. Everyone should have been laser focused on this. We should never have someone die after taking a vaccine. That's directly caused to the vaccine. Ben Gill and colleagues, Connecticut, published in Archives of Pathology. 2 boys, aged 16 and 17, who die a few days after taking Pfizer. These are teenagers. They're found dead at home by their parents. They're absolutely horrified. They request an autopsy.
Ever since we got our harvest,
to look over what are they finding at autopsy. Conclusion, it's Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine myocarditis. Unequivocal. These are autopsy confirmed cases. So for all the mothers in the room, how would they feel if they found their children dead after taking a COVID-19 vaccine? This is in the peer-reviewed literature. This is not misinformation.
Right.
Everyone should be paying attention to this.
Fact.
This is not conjecture. This is in the peer-reviewed literature. So we started to ask ourselves, what is going on? Turns out that Pfizer and Moderna and Janssen are the genetic code for the spike protein. The spike protein is the damaging part of the virus. The spike protein is loaded into the body and it causes tremendous damage in some. Acute myocarditis appears to have some genetic predilection, and all of the vials of the vaccine are not the same. But I can tell you, I'm concerned that until the vaccines are stopped, there will be cases of acute myocarditis. And to finish, we've had 216 vaccine deaths this year alone. So if the vaccine campaign continues, we have to look at what are we getting out of it now, 4.5 years of the campaign, and how many more people will die. I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. Thank you for listening.
Dr. Thorpe is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist and maternal fetal medicine specialist with over 44 years of clinical experience. As U.S. veteran and widely published physician, he has testified internationally, served as a journal peer reviewer, board member of the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, examiner for the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Dr. Thorpe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My patients, I focus on the most vulnerable patients, pregnant women and preborn. It is difficult to conceive of a more egregious breach of medical ethics by the government-controlled medical industrial complex than the promotion of COVID-19 vaccines to pregnant women, thereby, through transplacental transfer, effectively vaccinating their unborn and newborn children. This campaign was not accidental. It was calculated. Pregnant women were targeted deliberately for 2 reasons. First, women are the primary decision makers of healthcare across the human lifespan, a known marketing principle. Number 2, pregnant women are the most vulnerable patients. If they could be convinced that the vaccine was safe and effective, it would imply that it was safe and effective for everyone. From the outset of the pandemic, this vaccine campaign was never grounded in biological science, but rather in behavioral science, specifically the manipulation of public perception through influence.
Behavioral science. Because it is a behavior problem out here, for sure. Let's go.
Fear and persuasion. The federal government outsourced much of this psychological operations to NGOs which disseminated emotionally charged and misleading messaging. These entities falsely assured pregnant women that the vaccines were proven safe and essential for maternal and fetal newborn health, despite the fact that early evidence indicated quite the opposite. Pregnancy
deceived like a motherfucker. You heard? Deceived like a motherfucker. And they probably thought these facts would never come out. They probably thought these facts would never come out, y'all. Like they've been doing, y'all. You know what I mean? They've been experimenting on people. Y'all, I told you the Tuskegee experiment, that shit was real. And God knows what other experiment they got going on out this motherfucker.
itself was protective against COVID-19 maternal mortality. Dr. Jay Winston, an initiative director at Harvard School of Public Health, described the government's vaccine marketing approach in a 2020 CBS News interview. He explained that the strategy was to, quote, go for the low-hanging fruit. Those easy
Negroes. Go for the low-hanging Negroes. The uneducated Negroes. The uneducated Negroes. Go after them. Remember they started pumping that shit? The African American community and the Latino community are the vulnerable, right? Yeah, all right.
easiest to pick and harvest, end quote. And the fruit, in quotes, tragically, were pregnant women. Only this deception was institutionalized in the now infamous Shimabukuro study published on April 21st, 2021 in the digital version of the New England Journal of Medicine. 21 authors claimed the miscarriage rate was 12.6%, but the raw data revealed an 82% miscarriage rate in women vaccinated during the first trimester. This figure mirrors the effects of chemical abortion drugs such as RU-486. Also, in the same journal edition, on the same day, an op-ed appeared by CDC directions intended to coerce pregnant women into taking vaccines. Subsequent studies have also claimed that COVID-19 vaccines are safe and effective during pregnancy and have been rebuked by respected researchers. These publications are fundamentally compromised by serious conflicts of interest, ranging from biased funding sources and institutional mandates, and even threats to their medical licenses and board certifications between 2020 and 2022.
So they was threatening them doctors, you understand me? That's why they was selling y'all out. They was threatening the doctors that they would lose their license and practice if they didn't comply to their foolishness. You understand me? So that's where we going at with it. The evidence is